Okay, say you have a new game and you want to figure out how it works, but you don't want to take forever on it. Let me show you what I do. Stick around. Hi, folks. Old Man Grognard here, and I want to talk a little bit about learning new games, as in new to you, and if you don't have anybody to show you. So let me give you a little advice on how I do it. Now, I've been doing a lot of reviews, module supplements, game systems, things like that. And unfortunately, I'm a slow reader, which makes things like supplements, if they're any kind of, meaty, it takes me a while to read. I'm working on my reading speed. But until then, if a new game system comes along, or a one I kind of know about already, like this, or just say practically new, somebody says, oh, you got to try this. Okay, I'll look at it. But I found a way to quickly look at role-playing games, well, relatively quickly. I have a list here that I actually wrote down. But I've got it so I can look at role-playing games and go, okay, I get the gist of it. And I can actually, go through. It's like I can use these as a first pass so I can get the gist of it. Then I can go in and drill down a little deeper. And it doesn't take me as near enough time as reading a supplement and stuff. And I think you can do this too if you want to learn a new game or you have a new game and it looks interesting, but you don't have the time to sit down and go, 3 hours and go, okay. Or say you're in a game store and you want to see if this game is worth it. You can just turn to these pages and go, okay, this, and that suits you, that doesn't suit you. That way you can make kind of an informed decision without parting with your precious money. Believe me, as I got older, I've gotten a lot more frugal. And I really pick and choose where I spend my leisure money. So, this is how I did it. And I actually wrote these down because I just did these things, really not thinking about it. So, I wrote the list down. It's in no particular order. But if you know where to look, you can do it rather quickly. And it falls back on my last video about benchmarks. I have my own benchmarks of what I like or what I think is average. And the game system will have its benchmarks. You got to find the game's benchmarks. That helps you a lot. So let's leap right into this. First of all, I define it as 3 different types of role-playing games. First, there is the class and level role-playing game. D&D, the retro clones, things like that. Things that are sort of kind of like D&D, like Gamma World, and the D20 stuff. Mutants and Masterminds is kind of like that, only you don't really have it, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. You have class and level. You have the point buy systems, which is Mutants and Masterminds, and of course Champions, GURPS, Savage Worlds to a certain extent, and other universal games out there. And then I have the other, which is the games that don't fit into the other 2 categories, like Fate, like Dungeon World. The hacks can go in there sometimes, and other games like that. Some of the Theater of the Mind stuff too, and I also lump into where there's games which kind of combine the 2. Like Savage World is kind of a assigned point buy thing, and you do go up in sort of levels, but it's real loosey-goosey. So those are 3 I define. So I pick up a game. The first thing I do is check what kind of dice it uses. Does it use all of the polyhedral dice? Does it use maybe just a D20? Does it use all D6s? Or like I did the white hack. That's a D20 and D6s. That's it. That's the first thing you want to look at. Second thing you want to look at is if they have, every game has it, but some of them don't tell you what it is. The main mechanic for combat, for skills, for contests, for whatever, there's some kind of main mechanic there. Say it's roll a D20 under a number, whatever number that may be. Okay, determine that. Next, I look at the main stats. How many main stats are there? What are there? if there are any at all. There's some games like that White Hack who's like, okay, you're deft, you're wise, you're strong. And then you have main stats with it. But that covers another area, and I'll get to that in a minute. But like D&D, you got the 6 main stats. Champions, you've got, I don't know, what, 12, 18 stats. Mutants and Masterminds has 4. GURPS has 4. And see what they represent. Strength, dex, con, 3 different things. Okay? And some things can cover other things. Like your wisdom can cover your mental fortitude, or the intelligence could, or some other thing they come up with. Then you look at the races and classes, if there are any. The point buys probably won't have them. Oh, they'll have equivalent you can buy and build. But, do they have the main 4 races like in D&D? Do they have the different 4 races? Gangbusters has got different classes. Races, do they have the main fantasy races, or do they have something different? Do they leave out a race? Gnomes. But like in Dragonlance, they had no halflings. Okay. Also look at the classes and their special abilities. And I'm mainly picking on things like thieving skills and cleric's turning and healing. And that's basically with the class level stuff. So look at those. Look how initiative works in a combat. See how they do that. Now, what I learned when I did all my years in Champions is a character in Champions is built of, as far as powers and skills go, you've got to have offensive, defensive, and movement. Offensive, defensive, movement, and that can apply to other games too. For instance, offense. Find out how to hit. There is 50% of your game right there. How does the system, it's related to the main mechanic, but how do you actually hit, and what do you hit against? If there are any fancy maneuvers you need to know either in the class or outside the class that anybody can do, you need to know about those. Defensive. What's the AC or armor situation? What's the defense situation? Do we have an armor class? Do you have some kind of defense, some kind of armor thing? Is it natural armor? What? Weapons. What kind of damage do they do? And where does the damage come off of? Your health? Your hit points? What? If you have hit points. How do you save? If you have saves. Is there special saves? Like little things that you earn or something like that? Or do you have the standard 5 saves like in D&D? And things like that. Movement. What's the standard movement for a normal character? What? 20, 40 feet? Then there's combat movement. How much can they move in combat? Say that 40 feet, you can only move 20 in combat and still do something. And once again, maneuvers. If you can you move and act, or act and move, or move, act, move, or something like that? How many hits do you get per your class, per whatever special thing goes on? If you have like a fighter who has a specialty maneuver or something like that, or they've up and up level where they can do like 2 attacks around, you got to know that. Okay, this also falls into the other in the point by saying skills, powers, and magic. All right, skills. Is there a skill system? First of all, and how does that skill system work? And you hope it's simply. One of the things I have a problem with in 5e, it's hard to remember. But the point is, if there's skills, how do they work? How do they augment whatever they're going to augment in battle or as stats or whatever? Same with powers. If you're dealing with superheroes or some kind of psionic, or mystical men or something like that. And magic, it's its own thing. Magic, what kind of magic? What kind of magic? Do you have Vancian magic, spell lists? Do you build them on points, things like this? Do you get with the game master and both of you pull stuff out of your sphincter or something? How does that work? The monsters. What are the main monsters in the game? Are they human? Are they not human? Are they just types of humans? Are they things that are so tough you can't even think to go with them? Do they have a regular race of monster like an orc or a goblin or something like that? And special monsters, things like dragons. What are their special attacks? Or any other monster like that. That's basically what you need right there. And every game, you may have benchmarks, and every game will have a benchmark. They'll say, okay, armor class is this. And everything above or below, whether it's ascending or descending. Oh yeah, and if it's armor class, ascending or descending, and where does it start? This is mostly a point for ascending armor class, because I've seen armor classes like in Swords and Wizardry here start at 10. I've seen other game systems start at 0. Gamma World starts ascending AC at 0. That needs to be known. And how do I convert from one to the other, along with everything else? So those are the things I come up with. Like I said, they're not in any particular order. It's just these are the things I naturally look at. If I'm picking up a game book and I need to look at it and find out how it works, boom, 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 I know where to look. Or at least I'm supposed to know where to look. Also, make sure there's a real good index in the back of the book. If there isn't, you better hope there's a real good table of contents. Because sometimes there's a better table of contents than there's an index that'll help you. Oh, and here's another little trick that will help you. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a character sheet. There's a Swords of Wizardry character sheet over here. That'll be 50% of your problem solved right there, because you can see where the stats are. You can see attribute bonuses, hit points, saving throw, armor class, weapons damage. There's to hit bonuses for damage. I didn't know that. You have to worry about the ring and other things like that. If they have a character sheet for the game, look at the character sheet first before you even crack this. Just look at the character sheet and see where they're going with it. And that will help you. So I hope this helps you guys out there in the ether, to analyze, if you think this game is right for you or not, or if you want to deal with it, or if it's going to be too simple, too hard, whatever their benchmarks are, whatever yours is. If it suits you, that's an easy way for you to figure out if it suits you too. So go forth and do likewise. I will continue to review, and I will continue to be here. You can send me any kind of email you want at oldmangrognard@gmail.com. So until next time, bye-bye.